Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the Richmond Raceway here tonight for round number 5 of the 2023A Pit Pass Network ARCA series here in the Elite Racing League. Tonight it is the Pit Lane Cards and Collectibles 120 here at Richmond. Through the first 4 rounds of the series, we've seen 3 different winners, with Ethan Stanley taking 2 rounds, Nick Indelicato with a victory, as well as Joey Chapman last week. But tonight, we're looking for another new winner. My name is Robert Hill Jr. Joining me tonight, as always, is Wyatt Knadle. Wyatt, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Man, I am doing pretty good. Excited to mix it up a little bit here. We haven't dealt with a short track yet, and now we come to the beautiful racetrack at Richmond Raceway, and different kind of racing tonight, huh?
Absolutely. As you see here, Richmond International Raceway, or I guess just Richmond Raceway, it is a 0.3 of a mile oval. Tonight we're dealing with a little bit of a hot track temperature, just under 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Ambient temperature tonight 82 degrees with 45% relative humidity and 8 miles per hour winds here tonight. So we take a look at the scoring pylon to see where we stand in the late stages of qualifying. Michael Hossack to the top here, Wyatt. That's a bit of a shocker as we see Chris Wright on track now. We had a chance to speak with Chris before qualifying. He mentioned that it'll likely be a second lap qualifying attempt here tonight. So Chris out here doing his first lap of qualifying. We'll see where he runs on the board, but I'm very impressed by that lap by Hossack.
Yeah, and you know, he's had a really good season so far here in this Pit Pass Network ARCA series. He's done a really good job, some quietly good finishes, and to potentially put this on the pole is phenomenal.
As we see Chris right there goes P21 on lap number 1. We'll see what he can do on lap number 2. This does appear to be our final qualifier of the night, so if Chris Wright cannot make it to the top of the board, it'll be Michael Hossack on the pole. Chris Wright moves up to 11th, so it looks like Michael Hossack will be the pole sitter here tonight at Richmond.
Yeah, and another guy who's had a pretty quiet season right there on the outside pole tonight's William White in the 43 car.
I am just really pleasantly surprised to see that Michael Hossack is going to be our pole sitter tonight. We'll just quickly take a run through the top 5 as they stand. Michael Hossack showing us on the pole here tonight with William White on his outside. Braxton DeWeese and Jay Kaner making up row number 2, and making his Pit Pass Network ARCA debut tonight is Pit Pass Network founder Cash James. So we'll have to keep an eye on the 23 machine and see how he does. Qualifying has officially ended, and yes, it will be Michael Hossack on the pole. As we do pull up the grid here, we walked you through the top 5. Starting 6th tonight will be Hunter Smith. Ethan Stanley, our 2-time winner, alongside Latham Joyner, making his debut there in row number 4. Trey Holmes and Brandon Ultra rounding out the top 10. And Wyatt, why don't you carry us through to the 20th position here?
Most definitely. 11th, we have Chris Wright. A couple times finishing 2nd here this season already. Nathaniel Cherry, 12th. Jeff Green making his debut in this series in 13th. Jess Story, 14th. Jordan Owens, 15th. Robert Higgins, 16th. Dustin Dewar, 17th. David Carpenter, 18th. Mark Rabilas, 19th. And Rory Collins in the 20th position.
Starting in the 21st position tonight is Michael Goodman Jr. alongside Brandon Key in row 11. Row 12, we find Mark Keeler and Casey Hatch. Hatch going to have to come from afar in the field tonight. Robert Smith and Ray Bracey, 25th and 26th, respectively, with Mark Murphy and Jesse Rasmus there. Row 14, David Dunwoody did have a connection issue earlier. I'm not sure if he's going to make the start of this race, but if he does, he will roll off P29. As we send it down to the grid here, we're going to see right there, that is your pole sitter tonight. Like we mentioned, Michael Hossack And a storyline to follow as well, Wyatt. I'm not sure if you heard this one earlier. William Whyte, starting in the second position tonight, is under the weather, so he's trying to tough it out, race through this. I'm not sure if he'll be able to make it to the end with the way he's feeling, but we'll keep an eye on the William Whyte machine all night long as the field is leaving the grid here. It is Michael Hossack going to lead them to the green flag.
And it looks like here at the start it's going to be a little bit shuffled. We have a couple drivers who are going to be pushed to the back for an incorrect banner tonight.
Yeah, we have about 5 or 6 different drivers that do not have the Pit Pass Network ARCA Series banner on board, so they're going to file to the rear of the field. That'll move a couple guys up. Chris Wright, actually a huge benefactor there, going to start in the 5th position. So we will keep an eye on this here, as it looks like we'll do a second pacing lap. I'm not sure if that was extended by race control or if it is a natural occurrence here. I don't believe we are using the restart zone here tonight, Wyatt. So that'll also be something to keep an eye on these restarts. And just to point out the race format here, 120 laps, no stages, 5 sets of tires. So that's the set that they begin on, and 4 additional sets waiting in the pits.
Are you excited tonight, Robert? Because this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, you know, Wyatt, we got the chance to watch a little bit of practice. We saw people getting exceptionally loose off of turn 4. We heard people getting loose into the corners as well. As the pace truck is off, we'll send it down to Barney the flagman as he has the green flag in hand. Michael Hossack gets on the loud pedal. Actually, they did have the restart zone, so that's good to see there, as Michael Hossack is the race leader down into turn 1, as we see Ethan Stanley and William Whyte battling side by side for P2.
Yeah, and that 91 is no stranger to being in the front in this series. He has been dominant thus far this season.
Yeah, 2 victories for Ethan Stanley, as he's going to look to make a pass on Michael Hossack here to take the race lead. He gets loose on the inside. That's exactly what we just mentioned there with the looseness off of turn 2.
Off of the inside wall off of turn 2.
That is Casey Hatch on the back straightaway. Some pretty heavy contact on the left front there. We'll see if he's able to continue on in this thing. I'm not sure if he will. We'll take a look on the Mark J. Robias photography replay machine. We're watching the U.S. Army machine towards the rear of this group. We'll see if we can get a view of what happened to Casey Hatch.
Look at that, 3 wide in the center of 1 and 2 as well.
Yeah, the 62-30 just gets a little loose, grabs a piece of the wall, able to continue on is the Hatch machine. So still out there, but back up front it is Ethan Stanley now battling William Whyte for the lead. Michael Hossack falling back to 3rd. And we see right here that is Jay Kaner and Chris Wright battling side by side for the 4th position. Chris Wright, of course, one of the Pit Pass Network drivers in the field tonight, as we see Hunter Smith joining the picture as well in the newly renumbered 54 car, looking much better than the triple numbered 017 that we've seen him in so far in this series.
Yeah, and I think while we were under replay there, the 8 of Robert Smith actually made contact pretty bad on the backstretch wall. Lost a lot of track.
As we see him spinning out now, this may be the first caution of the day. Actually, it does appear that he's going to get it rolling, but will he be quick enough? Yes, he will. We'll keep an eye. He has quite the bit of a gap behind him, so he should be okay. But, yeah, we heard a lot about looseness here tonight, Wyatt, and that's something that we've seen so far. We just saw when we were on board there with the Robert Smith machine. We saw him go around, and he was able to catch that. But unfortunate incident early on, as we see William Whyte looking for an opportunity now to pounce and get the lead from Ethan Stanley. We're going to ride on board with William Wyatt here. We're going to do a lap around Richmond so you can see the looseness and whatnot that these guys are actually dealing with.
As you look at him here, he's really smooth going through 1 and 2, and has cranked the wheel back a little bit to the right to counter steer just a little bit, driving it in quite hard into 3 too. But you know, overall smooth on the inputs. He's doing a pretty good job maintaining that, trying to match pace with Ethan Stanley right now.
Yeah, one thing to point out for those following at home, this series does try to utilize the iRacing fixed setup as much as possible, but unfortunately at a track like Richmond, we just do not have one to use. As I see a little bit of movement in the midfield, looks like a battle.
Oh, we have a car around.
Robert Higgins up in the outside wall. Caution number 1 is out here at Richmond. We'll take a look on the Robiles Photography replay machine, Wyatt, and see what happened to the 07 of Robert Higgins. As you can see, the 07 up on the outside of Trey Holmes, and the 48, Latham Joyner, makes it 3 wide on the bottom. Things got a little bit close there off at 2. Yeah, looks kind of hard to tell at first if the 07 maybe comes down on the 48, but the 3 looks like he comes up a bit into the 48 of Holmes, sends Holmes up into the 07 just barely, and sends the 07 around. We'll see how that is scored by race control, but one thing to watch here, we are on caution number 1. Are these guys going to come down pit road and take tires? Ethan Stanley definitely does come down pit road, as does William Wyatt, but it looks like everyone else, for the most part, is going to stay out.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, too. I'm not sure what to think of this one, because with 5 sets of tires, you know, these guys have a little bit of room to mess around with changing tires pretty quickly. I'm surprised we didn't see more come down there.
Taking a look on pit road, William Wyatt on pit road, Ethan Stanley on pit road, Cash James, you see him on pit road coming down now. Dustin Durr is back there as well. Dave Carpenter, Mark Keeler, Casey Hatch, and Robert Smith. You have to think a few of those guys are just getting damage fixed. And we see from race control here, contact between the 07, 48, and 3 is deemed a racing incident.
I think everyone from that accident's going to be okay as well. I shouldn't be too much damage on the 3 or the 48. The 07 might have a little bit, but I think he's going to be okay to continue, especially at the lower speeds of Richmond.
Absolutely. And Wyatt, I'm going to take this opportunity to shout out our race sponsor tonight, the Pit Lane Cards and Collectibles. Pit Lane Cards and Collectibles is your one-stop shop for all your NASCAR trading card needs. Follow them on Twitter at the Pit Lane Cards for your card and collectible needs today. That is a company run by my good buddy Jake Finch, and he has a lot of fun with the cards, that's for sure. Of course, this is the Pit Pass Network ARCA series. Pit Pass Network is your new home for all things NASCAR. From news to reviews and interviews, check out pitpassnetwork.com today. Of course, that is owned by Cash James, who we see back here in the 26th position. He just came down pit road for some tires and fuel. And I know a lot of the Pit Pass Network staff is watching tonight, so hello to you folks. And here's your other Pit Pass Network car in Chris Wright, currently running in the 4th position. So a little bit of kind of a Pit Pass Network sandwich with Chris at the front and Cash at the back.
Yeah, and you know, Chris up front there in the top 5 he's no stranger to that. You know, second place after second place, and he's finished well every race this season for the most part. So he's looking to continue to build that momentum.
As the lights are off on the iRacing.com pace car, we're going to send it back to Barney the Flag Man as he sees Michael Hossack into the restart zone. Green flag is back out, and we are racing once again. Michael Hossack, Jay Kaner on the front row for that restart. As I see a little bit of action towards the rear, looks like we may be looking 3 wide. We do not, thankfully. As you can just see this entire field basically all under a blanket. We got some 3 wide here. That's Michael Goodman with Latham Joyner and Jess Story. That is for the 10th position, as you see Jess Story work his way through. Latham Joyner as well looks to the bottom of Jordan Owens. That will move Owens to the 8th position. Latham Joyner looking to take that from him here. That would be where Latham actually qualified in the race, but of course he did have to fall to the rear earlier due to a banner issue, but Latham back up there as we see a battle for the race lead here, Wyatt.
Yeah, Jay Kaner's doing a pretty good job getting underneath Hossack, and he's actually looking to take the position going into turn 3 here.
Jay Kaner, another guy that's really had a strong season here so far, looking for an opportunity to maybe pick up one of those victories tonight. Of course, a long way to go here, so we see a little bit more shuffling back here in the rear of the field. Nothing going on, but back up front, it is now a battle for second, with Hunter Smith looking to the inside of Michael Hossack. Looks like he is going to make the pass for second. Welcome Chris Wright into the picture as Chris Wright has the car step out on him a little bit there. So Chris trying to gather that up, get back into the hunt, and chase down our race leaders of Kaner, Smith, and Hossack. Hossack maintaining the 3rd position, showing some strength. And once again, as I mentioned many times in this series, this is exactly what this series is about. People like Michael Hossack that do not often get the chance to run up front in the top 3 Elite Series, getting the chance to show himself and others that he can do it. And he's done a great job of that all season long, now running in 3rd, as it looks like we may have had an incident. We saw Rabilis lose a bunch of spots. He was able to catch that and hold on to it. William White. William lost a lot of spots here, Wyatt, with the pit stop. Still trying to work his way back up. Who was up there with him? Ethan Stanley only finds himself in the 12th spot, battling now with Braxton DeWeese.
Yeah, and Ethan Stanley started outside of the top 20, I believe. So he's up about 8 spots, doing pretty good navigating through the traffic with about 10-lap fresher tires. And William White's not necessarily having the best of luck on these. I think he's kind of in a traffic jam right now. As you see him lose a little bit of momentum there, I think that's just an answer for all the traffic right in front of him. There's nowhere to go right now.
That's exactly it. You know, when there's nowhere to go, there's nowhere to go. You can't really just force your way through, because that's when you have incidents, and these guys definitely don't want to have any incidents early on and end up on the hook. That's just not what they're looking for. It's not what anyone wants. Of course, we are about halfway through the season, so at this point, really everything counts, and you need all the points you can get.
Yeah, and Ethan Stanley is up now. I believe he's cracked the top 10, believe it or not, already. He's flirting with it, at least.
Yeah, as actually we're going to go back here. We had a nice little battle going between Rory Collins and David Carpenter. You see the Casey Hatch machine in the picture now. He is 1 lap down. He got some damage fixed there, and now will do his best to work his way back up through the field. As we look through here, I'm seeing a name that's kind of popping out as someone that hasn't been in the top 10 yet tonight. That is right here, my fellow Canadian, Nathaniel Cherry. Started back in the 12th position, currently up in the 5th spot. Doing a fantastic job here tonight for Shift Esports. Seth Rawls Designs on the side of that thing, and he's having a strong showing here tonight.
Yeah, and let's talk. Oh, we have some contact on the backstretch with, I believe, Michael Goodman, and that might have been William White as well. They kept it together. But
we're having a wreck. Nice job by Cash James getting through there, though. Casey Hatch involved, Brandon Key, Mark Rabilis, Ray Bracey involved, Mark Keeler, Dustin Durr, William White. We'll take a look here and see what happened on the Rabilis Photography replay machine. We're seeing the 43 on the inside of the 32 here. There's Dustin Durr on the high side, William White on the inside here. As we see, Dustin Durr just steps out. Unfortunately,
Man, that's a lot of contact for all those guys.
I'm going to back this up a little bit, head over to Brandon Key and Ray Bracy. I think Ray steps on the brakes here, trying to avoid Mark Murphy. Brandon Key just gets right under him, picks the rear end of that car up, and just not just because he sponsors this series, but because the move he just made to avoid this was pretty strong. We're going to ride on board with Cash James in the 23 here and see what he saw. You can see the wreck developing on the upper right corner of the screen here. Here goes Ray Bracy and Brandon Key. And Cash James just drives right on by, gets down into the grass to avoid it, and does a nice job just staying out of the wreck.
Yeah, what a great view of that, too. I don't think you could have gotten in any better of a seat for as stressful as that might have been for him.
Definitely not. It looks like he's taking an extended stay on pit road, likely to get a new fire suit, as he might have made a little bit of a mess in his when that caution did come out right ahead of him. Our race leader right now is Chris Wright, just ahead of Ethan Stanley, who's worked his way back up. Rory Collins, Mark Keeler, and Jay Kaner, the top five. Hunter Smith, Nathaniel Cherry, Michael Hossack, Latham Joyner, and 2000 Busch Series champion Jeff Green round out the top 10. The lights are still on the pace car, so we're going to send it over to our friends at TA Services for a quick. And we are back here at Richmond Raceway. That was our friends at TA Services, one of our great premier partners here in the Elite Racing League. We also have to give a shout out to our friends at Blue Egg Marketing. Blue Egg is the marketing department for small businesses, small business owners. Blue Egg is your biggest fan. And our newest premier partner here at Elite is the Worldwide Technology Raceway, formerly Gateway, is a motorsport racing facility in Madison, Illinois, just east of St. Louis, Missouri, and close to the Gateway Arch. Worldwide Technology Raceway houses a 1.25-mile oval, a 2-mile road course, quarter-mile drag strip, and a state-of-the-art karting facility. Be sure to check out Worldwide Technology Raceway today. Of course, this is the Pit Pass Network ARCA series. Pit Pass Network is your new home for all things NASCAR, from news to reviews and interviews. Check out pitpassnetwork.com today. And this is the Pit Lane Cards 120 at Richmond. Pit Lane Cards and Collectibles is your one-stop shop for all your NASCAR trading card needs. Follow them on Twitter at the Pit Lane Cards. Back down on the racetrack, Wyatt, it is Chris Wright leading Ethan Stanley, Rory Collins, Mark Keeler, and Jay Kaner. And as we mentioned, rounding out the top five was Hunter Smith, Michael Hossack, Nathaniel Cherry, Jeff Green, and Latham Joyner. As we send it down to Barney the Flagman, he'll get us back underway here as Chris Wright enters the Geico restart zone. Green flag is in the air, and we are back racing at Richmond.
What a start for those front two. I mean, they just completely left the pack going into turn one.
Absolutely. Those two got a great jump here as we see Hunter Smith kind of caught in the middle here. We're going to go up to our Elite Racing Network blimp. This is currently being flown by LJ Toledo behind the wheel of that blimp here, side by side with Nathaniel Cherry. Going three wide in the middle is Hunter Smith. He's about to get hooked by Latham Joyner there. As you can see, the Hunter Smith car stepping out. Latham Joyner falling back a little bit, not really anywhere to go. He comes into the clutches of Jeff Green and Mark Keeler as Latham Joyner stepping out here. Jeff Green loose on the bottom.
He saved it. What a great job. But the three wide going into turn one.
Michael
They're making contact.
Michael Hossack and Trey Holmes three wide on the outside of the Jeff Green machine as we see Latham Joyner diving to the bottom. I want to do a lap on board with Latham Joyner. He is like the wild child out there. So we see Mark Keeler stepping out on the front straightaway here, on board with the 3 car. That is Latham Joyner. Actually, I'm going to step up to the lead here. We have a battle between Ethan Stanley and Chris Wright. Now 3 wide for third place, sorry. As we're getting a double dose of race control here. Lap 27 contact between the 44 and the 32. Tally on the 44. That is Goodman and Dewar. And then contact between Dewar and William White. Tally on the 32 of William White. It's quite the lap, Wyatt.
Yeah, there was so much excitement there. It was so hard to track. Oh my goodness, man. This battle right now in this top 5 is absolutely insane.
Insane. We're going to fly up with our drone camera here and see what in the world is going on as we see Ethan Stanley step out a little bit. Here we go. I think that's Braxton Deweese just got a piece. Hunter Smith, Jay Kaner moves up the track. Oh my gosh, this is getting crazy. Jay Kaner files suit back into the line here. Nathaniel Cherry currently running 3rd, looking for an opportunity to pounce on the 91 of Stanley and the 42 of Wright. Here comes Latham Joyner zigzagging down the back straightaway. Wyatt, this is a little crazy.
This is a battle for 1st through 10th at this point, and I have no clue who's going to win. Chris Wright is doing a phenomenal job after staying out on those old tires, fighting Ethan Stanley on the top right now. But it looks like Ethan's finally going to get clear of him.
Here comes Nathaniel Cherry, though, looking to the bottom. Hunter Smith looking to the high side here.
Oh, and they're 3 wide.
They were about to be 4 wide right there, Wyatt, as we see Hunter Smith absolutely trying to rip the high side here around Ethan Stanley. We see Hunter Smith now going to that top lane. Here comes Nathaniel Cherry on the bottom. We're going to go up to the blimp cam here as Hunter Smith is going to clear into the race lead. Now battling for 2nd is Nathaniel Cherry, as well as Ethan Stanley and Braxton Deweese. Nathaniel Cherry gets a little bit deep into the corner there. He's able to get back in line in front of Stanley and work his way into 2nd, as the battle now is for 3rd between Deweese and Stanley.
What an incredible lap by Hunter Smith to go and take that lead. He was in like about the 5th spot and took it 3 wide on Chris Wright, got up to 3rd, and then decided to get on the outside of Ethan Stanley and take the lead. That was incredible. And it looks like Chris Wright's fallen back a decent amount now after that. I think those tires.
Chris Wright falling back, now battling side by side with Brandon Ultra just behind him. Jesse Rasmus and Trey Holmes. I want to look a little bit further in the field. Back to Cash James here. He's currently running in the 17th position. I know he has a bit of a fan club watching tonight, and he's working his way back up here. But
the 48's around, and Jeff Green's in the wall.
Trey Holmes not facing in the right direction here. I think he thought we were switching to drive backwards at this point in the race. Trey, that is not what we've opted to do here, but if you want to do that, you definitely can, as we're going to pull up the Robilis photography replay machine and see what happened to Trey Holmes. I believe Mark Robilis was involved as well.
And this looks like just a situation where there's a checkup. I think the 45 gets loose on the bottom, and the 70 and the 42 actually touch.
Yeah, you can see it right there. Looks like everyone reacts to Brandon Ultra and his incident. Trey gets in a little too hot, gets into Rasmus briefly. Jeff Green does get into the rear of Trey Holmes, and that sends Holmes around up into the outside wall. I don't think anything too major will be damaged on the Trey Holmes machine, but you do see him coming down pit road to get that car fixed. We had a couple guys come down for tires here. Ethan Stanley's on pit road there. This is a terrible view of pit road, let me tell you. Has Chris Wright also on pit road, Jeff Green, Jess Story, and others. Hunter Smith, though, is still the race leader with Nathaniel Cherry and Braxton Deweese. Rounding out the top 5, Latham Joyner, Jay Kaner, Brandon Ultra, Jesse Rasmus, Jordan Owens, Mark Murphy and Ray Bracey rounding out the top 10. Just outside the top 10, we do see Michael Hossack, Cash James, David Carpenter, Mark Robilas, and Robert Higgins. And rounding out the top 20 at this point is Ethan Stanley, Chris Wright, Jess Story, and then Casey Hatch down on pit road there, Rory Collins, and Mark Keeler should round out the top 20 there, as the lights are still on the pace car. Wyatt, what's one thing that's really stood out to you so far as we're about 12 laps away from halfway?
Well, I think the biggest thing here is race control needs to remind these guys this is a 120-lap race, not a 50-lap race, because the racing we've had so far is insane. I've never seen 10 cars battle for the lead before, and I think we saw that on that run at one point. As we see race control coming down, the contact between the 42, 70, 48, and 32 is just deemed a racing incident, so no one's going to get a tally there. But yeah, extremely exciting. These guys are really putting on a show so far, and there's been a couple casualties out of it, but overall I think we're having an incredible showing from all these guys here tonight. And one guy I want to know is the 70 car of Jesse Rasmus started in the 28th position tonight. He's currently up to 7th. He is the biggest mover of guys who did not get an EOL at the start of this race.
Yeah, that is a great point there. Rasmus currently up 21 spots. Great gain off the start here, coming up to lap 50. About 72 laps remaining here in the pit lane. Cards 120 here in the Pit Pass Network ARCA series. Jesse Rasmus, another one that's really taken advantage of this series, working his way up from the rear of the field a couple times, just doing what he can to try to maximize everything he can in these cars as the lights are off on the iRacing.com pace truck. It is Hunter Smith and Nathaniel Cherry lining up on the front row. And I know that we definitely have some Shift Esports fans watching the race tonight, cheering on their driver, Nathaniel Cherry. He is a very popular Canadian there, and he's hoping to pick up his first victory here in about 70 laps or so.
Yeah, he's done a great job all night. As we come back to green here, Robert, I will pass it back over to you.
Yeah, the pace car has come down pit road as the guys enter the Geico restart zone. Barney, the flag man, is waving the green flag. We are back underway. Great jump by Hunter Smith. Nathaniel Cherry now battling side by side with Braxton Deweese. That is for the second position here. As you see Deweese working the inside lane, trying to get the spot on Nathaniel Cherry here. Looks like Deweese will clear into second. Cherry gets back down in line with Latham Joyner just behind him.
Yeah, and it looks as we go deeper into this pack, nothing's settling down. I mean, we have guys 2 wide, 3 wide, finding lanes everywhere they can go, and Ethan Stanley's trying to work his way up right now.
As we see a little bit of side-by-side action here, that is Ray Bracey and Michael Hossack battling for the 10th position. Just behind them, we see a side-by-side battle. That is Cash James and Mark Robilas battling for the 12th spot here. Ethan Stanley was looking to make it 3 wide between Robilas and Carpenter. Opts not to do so, as we see somebody just got a piece of the wall in the back there. I do believe that to be Mark Keeler. He's able to continue on, as just ahead of them is Chris Wright, trying to work his way back up through the field, and he is in P17 right now. So a little bit of work to do, and of course he's going to be coming up on his boss man soon. Just a few spots ahead is Cash James, and Chris Wright already wrecked him in practice tonight. So hopefully those two do not get together here in the race.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that they don't have to fund the actual cars here tonight, or else that would have been a pretty expensive day at the office for those guys.
Absolutely. As we watch up here, Hunter Smith is the race leader over Braxton Deweese. As we see Dustin Doer falling back a little bit at the rear of the field, just got passed by William White. Now chasing him down is Rory Collins and Casey Hatch. Both of those guys have been caught up in a couple incidents tonight, so they'll do their best to maximize whatever they can get out of these cars here. As we see Casey Hatch working the high side, trying to get himself back up to the front of the field, as it looks like we have a little bit of a battle for fourth here brewing between Latham Joyner and Jay Kaner. I believe these two made a little bit of contact earlier out on the racetrack, so it may not be as clean of a pass as some of these guys might like to see.
No, and these guys are two guys that are known for pushing the envelope as far as they can. They like to drive aggressive and they like to drive hard every single lap, and they're showing it right now.
As we see Jay Kaner able to steal the position from Latham Joyner. Joyner looks like he may be looking to do a dive underneath that 9 machine, work his way back up to the front. 62 laps to go here at Richmond in the pit lane, cards 120. Hunter Smith continuing to lead over Braxton DeWeese and Nathaniel Cherry. You did just see the battle for fourth between Jay Kaner and Latham Joyner. Just behind them, Brandon Ultra trying to hold off a fast Jesse Rasmus car tonight with Jordan Owens, Mark Murphy, and here he is, Ethan Stanley, back up into the top 10.
Yeah, that man's been bad fast all night, and especially with those new tires. I was watching him here a few laps ago as he sat behind Cash James, and I think he lost patience with it because he knew he had the tires, and he just dove him 3 wide, cleared him going into turn 1. It was as simple as that. He's really moving tonight.
Yeah, it's pretty great to see Ethan Stanley showing his strength here tonight. And we did just get a request for an on-board lap here, so we'll get you that momentarily as the cars come off of turn 2 here. We'll wait till we get to the start-finish line. Actually, I do want to highlight this real quick. It's about to be a side-by-side battle with the pit pass network cars, as I completely messed that up here. Side-by-side, Chris Wright and Cash James. We're going to go on board with Cash James here.
Almost looked like we might have saw a little 3 wide there, but Cash decided better, and he's like, you know what, I kind of want to make it to the end of the race tonight, the way things have been going.
As you see Cash looking for an opportunity to squeeze through on the outside of Chris Wright, he opts not to do so, gets back in line as Chris Wright looks to make a pass on Jess Story for the 13th position. That was a lap on board with the 15th place car, Cash James, there at the request of his fan club, as we see Hunter Smith back out front, but Braxton DeWeese now has a bit of company with Nathaniel Cherry and Jay Kaner right behind him.
Yeah, and Hunter Smith, though, alone, he's doing a pretty good job of maintaining that gap, and he's got a really fast car tonight. We saw him passing cars on the outside on the previous run, and I mean, he's got the speed and the pace tonight out there in clean air.
As you see Nathaniel Cherry trying to run down the Braxton DeWeese machine. Braxton was very, very loose last time by. The car really stepped out on him, and we nearly had an incident. As folks, we have passed the halfway point here, and we've seen a few different leaders tonight, but Hunter Smith does look to be one of the strongest cars here in the field tonight, as Latham Joyner looks to the inside of Jay Kaner.
Yeah, and they're getting in that weird spot right now from second on back to about, fifth or sixth there, where these cars are under a blanket, so one small mistake can actually prove disastrous. We actually saw that last night in the Grand National Series at Kansas. We had the top 5 wreck out pretty much just from one small bump and one just touch of the wall off of turn 4.
That's exactly it. Last night, like you mentioned, the entire top 5 was involved in an accident, took out a lot of heavy hitters. Some of them were able to rebound as Dustin Dewar goes for a bit of a slide off the corner.
Man, Casey Hatch and Dustin Dewar have been battling nonstop for the last few laps, and I have seen those cars more sideways than straight. They really want that spot, as you see Casey get loose there off turn 4.
Yeah, it's really great to see the intensity that these guys are battling with tonight, as Hatch looks like he's going to clear in front of the 32. Dustin Dewar does not want to stay in line, as he is going to look to the inside of the Hatch machine here. Riding on with Dustin Dewar, you can see the 14 Casey Hatch just on his outside there. Hatch does clear, but Dustin Dewar, he's still there and ready to party.
If you go back to the front right now, we're starting to see that 91 car creep up into this pack, second on through seventh or so. And he's got those fresh tires. He's worked his way up really quick, and he's got a lot of tire left to make these passes as he dives low on Brandon Ultra right now.
As you see the Ethan Stanley machine on the inside of the 45 of Brandon Ultra, Jay Kaner steps out a little bit ahead of him here. It looks like Ethan Stanley will get the 6th position there from Ultra. Now has his eyes set on Latham Joyner and Jay Kaner, with Nathaniel Cherry and Braxton DeWeese not too far ahead of him, as Ethan Stanley continuing to climb here.
Yeah, and enough can't be said tonight for the job that Hunter Smith has done. He was competitive the last few weeks, and, you know, just doing a great job here tonight. He's maintaining that gap. I don't really see any reason him pushing it too hard with all these guys battling. So, you know, doing a good job, about a half second in the lead right now, and a half second in a track like Richmond's quite a lot.
Most definitely, as we do see on the screen here, that is the gap between 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, which is very, very small, as we do continue to ride up with this battle. For the 5th position, it is Latham Joyner side by side with Ethan Stanley. I think at some point here the tires will equalize, despite Ethan Stanley having the newer tires. The more they push, the more they're going to wear these tires down.
Yeah, and you know, with him being underneath these cars, having to drive it a little more, with a little more wheel coming off the exit of the corner to avoid hitting the car above him, I think that's going to be a main factor in his tire wear. Whereas some of these other guys like Hunter Smith and Braxton DeWeese and Nathaniel Cherry, they've been kind of single file this whole time.
As we actually just had a double file moment, as we saw Nathaniel Cherry look to the inside of Braxton DeWeese. Back here now, Ethan Stanley looks to the inside of Jay Kaner. Just made the pass on Latham Joyner. Latham still on his right rear quarter panel, though. This is getting really tight as Jay Kaner's pinching off in the middle of the corner. You can expect there may be a little bit of contact if that is to happen again, as Ethan Stanley now chasing down Nathaniel Cherry for the 3rd position. Ethan Stanley on a bit of a rip right now, working his way up through the field.
Yeah, he's doing a masterful job as he works over Nathaniel Cherry. But, you know, I was just looking at the lap counter, and we're already about 40 laps to go in this race. And I swear we were at about 45 laps like 15 seconds ago. I guess time flies when you're having fun, and we're having a lot of fun calling this here tonight.
Would you be shocked if I told you that it has been about 40 laps nearly, or I guess 32, since we last had a caution?
Man, I don't want to hear that jinx. That sounds like...
I'm not necessarily jinxing it, Wyatt. I'm just saying that it is flying by at this point. As soon as we got under the green flag a little bit, we have a battle for the lead.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. I got to see what happened to Hunter Smith. All of a sudden, he lost all that time.
I think the car may have briefly stepped out on Hunter Smith, as now we have a 4-car battle for the lead. Braxton DeWeese on the inside of Hunter Smith. Here comes Ethan Stanley through the middle. That almost got hairy, as Nathaniel Cherry still hanging on here. Ethan Stanley just cuts the nose off the Cherry machine, almost popped the nose off that car, as we do see now nearly some contact between DeWeese and Smith. 3 wide heading down, now back to 2. This is going to get bad.
My goodness. Yeah, and I think it's go time now for these drivers. 40 to go. They know that they've got to make this time and get up front, because I think they've seen enough of this pack that's been here this whole run, and they're about tired of it.
This is crazy at this point, as we see Ethan Stanley looking to make the pass on Braxton DeWeese. I do think Ethan Stanley does have the best car here right now. He does have the best lap time tonight on the charts, but pretty crazy to see someone like Ethan Stanley be so good in these cars this season.
Yeah, and he's got a run right here as we go into turn 1. He's going to take it low on Braxton DeWeese for the lead.
Here comes Ethan Stanley, the two-time winner this season, looking to make the pass on Braxton DeWeese side by side down the back straightaway into turn 3. DeWeese with a little advantage on the high side. Ethan Stanley trying to get the drive off the bottom here. Looks like he will, as actually Braxton DeWeese did still lead that lap here. Ethan Stanley now does look like he's going to clear. He does. Ethan Stanley, your new race leader once again, just ahead of Braxton DeWeese. Hunter Smith chasing them down, but Jay Kaner looking to make a move to get up into the top 3. So we see Latham Joyner and Nathaniel Cherry battling for the 5th position there. Chris Wright not too far behind in 7th. Now he's on the outside of Nathaniel Cherry. Just behind him, Brandon Ultra, Jesse Rasmus, and Jordan Owens rounding out the top 10 with Mark Murphy, Michael Hossack, our pole sitter there in 12th, Jess Story in 13th, Cash James in 14th, rounding out the top 15, Mark Keeler. As we go back up front, does look like Ethan Stanley's been able to build about a half-second lead over Braxton DeWeese. First battle we see side by side was 3rd place between Hunter Smith and Jay Kaner. Jay Kaner does lose the spot to Hunter Smith. So we see Chris Wright looking to the outside. We're going to go on board with Chris Wright here as he tries to work his way up into the top 5.
Yeah, and you know, he kind of came out of nowhere. He pitted from the front there on one of those cautions, and he's been pretty quiet working his way through the field. Now he's already up in the top 10, deep in the top 10. You know, he's actually battling for the 5th spot right now. As you see, really smooth, hugging that yellow line underneath Latham. And coming off the corner pretty low, but I think it's keeping the car under him here.
Yeah, great driving by these guys tonight, finding the line that works for them and really just sticking with it as this is getting really tight. Just look at this. Chris Wright almost did a Chris wrong. Dive into the inside, 3 wide into the corner. You can definitely hold that to me saying Chris Wright and Chris wrong there, but
how long have you been sitting on that?
All day long, actually. Is you know, I've been pitching ideas to Cash James about new segments for Pit Pass Network. You know, we need a Chris Wright segment there that we can definitely work on, as Chris Wright does work his way up into 4th now, getting by Hunter Smith and Latham Joyner, setting his sights on the Jay Kaner machine. And Wyatt, I do just want to go back to a pre-race conversation that we had with Chris Wright. We were trying to guess where he'd finish tonight. You guessed 2nd place, isn't that correct?
Yeah, I believe I did, and I'm starting to feel a little more comfortable. He's running some really good lap times. He's no stranger to the 2nd this season, but you know, he's really creeping up there very quick too, and he's gonna have to pass quite a few cars still, or a couple cars, before he can set his sights on Ethan Stanley. But you know, he's in really good shape right now with 30 to go.
Absolutely. Is I do just want to point out my position that I chose for Chris Wright was this 4th position. So as of right now, I am cheering for Jay Kaner to get by him here and hold him off, as this battle is the best battle we have on track right now. Kaner and Wright battling for the 3rd and final podium spot, as we are now 30 laps remaining in the pit lane. Cards 120 here. This is the Pit Pass Network ARCA series on the Elite Racing Network. Once again, thank you to everyone for joining us here. This is round number 5. We are 4 races into the season. 2-time winner right here, Ethan Stanley, back out front. He picked up the win in rounds number 1 and 3. Then in round 2, it was Nick Indelicato, who's not here tonight, and Joey Chapman last week in round number 4. He is also not here, so this is a big day for Ethan Stanley, trying to do what he can to continue to lead this thing, as Chris Wright did get free of Jay Kaner. Now Jay Kaner battling with Latham Joyner, move Latham Joyner up into 4th. Jay Kaner back to 5th. Hunter Smith and Nathaniel Cherry chasing him down. Brandon Ultra right there, as well as Jesse Rasmus and Jordan Owens up inside the top 10, as we see Mark Murphy, or Murph Markey, whatever you want to call him, right outside the top 10.
Yeah, we've got a lot of single file out on the track right now, but I think the tire wear is now kind of breaking even on everybody that pitted under that last caution and that stayed out. And so it's really coming down to who was able to cool their tires down enough to make a push here for the end of the race.
And, one thing I do want to point out, Wyatt, of course, obviously anything could still happen as we are coming around to 25 to go. You will see the towers change over as you did right there. We started 28 cars on track. It is showing 29, but David Dunwoody did not make the call here tonight, so he did not start. So we started 28, and we currently have 27 still running on the racetrack. Jeff Green, the only car one lap down. Brandon Key just ahead of the race leader. He's about to go a lap down, but that's really impressive to see that many guys still running at this point in the race.
Yeah, and we had a couple of those really big incidents earlier in this race, but these guys kind of figured it out and realized that running 10 wide for first probably wasn't a good idea, and so they decided to calm it down and be a little more patient with their moves and whatnot. But this race has really been put together well by these guys. A great show, fun to watch and fun to commentate on.
As we see a tight battle here, that is Dustin Dewar and Rory Collins battling for 19th. So even way in the back of the field, we still have side-by-side battles, which is absolutely phenomenal to see at this point. Just ahead of them, we did see that is Trey Holmes just past David Carpenter for 17th. So lots of battles all throughout the field. Just up here, we do see Jess Story and Michael Hossack there. Mark Murphy, Jordan Owens, Brandon Ultra all battling for position. But back up here, it is side-by-side. Chris Wright, Braxton DeWeese. We are under caution. It is Murph Markey.
Yeah, it looks like Mark Murphy might have gotten a little help there as we go to our replay machine.
Ooh, nearly got Trey Holmes there as we pull up the Mark J. Rubiles Photography replay machine, rubilesphoto.com for all your photo needs. It was side-by-side with Mark Murphy and Jordan Owens here. I'll see if anything came out of those two. Maybe Jess Story. It is Jess Story gets right into the rear of the 69 of Mark Murphy. Cash James does a great job of avoiding that once again, as I will point out everybody now on pit road. I'm going to assume that will be a tally on the Jess Story machine, Wyatt. We'll see in a moment, but we are 20 laps to go here in the Pit Lane Cards 120. This is the Pit Pass Network ARCA series here on the Elite Racing Network. We'll be right back after a brief message from our friends at TA. And that was our friends at TA Services, one of our great premier partners here at the Elite Racing League. Of course, another premier partner here is Blue Egg Marketing. Blue Egg is the marketing department for small businesses, small business owners. Blue Egg is your biggest fan. And of course, Wyatt, our favorite racetrack, Worldwide Technology Raceway, formerly known as Gateway, is a motorsport racing facility in Madison, Illinois, just east of St. Louis, Missouri, and close to the Gateway Arch, featuring a 1.25-mile oval, a 2-mile road course, quarter-mile drag strip, and a state-of-the-art karting facility. Check out Worldwide Technology Raceway today. Of course, this is the Pit Lane Cards 120. Pit Lane Cards and Collectibles is your one-stop shop for all your NASCAR trading card needs. Follow them on Twitter at the Pit Lane Cards. And of course, this is the Pit Pass Network ARCA series. Pit Pass Network is your new home for all things NASCAR. From news and reviews to interviews, check out pitpassnetwork.com today. And I do just want to point out the staff over at Pit Pass Network did just recently put out their predictions for the 2023 racing season with a bit of NASCAR, a bit of IndyCar, and some SRX action as well. So go check that out. You know, you might say that I made some crazy picks. You might say that Jake Finch, the owner of Pit Lane Cards, made some crazy picks, or anyone else in the staff. So be sure to check it out and let us know what you think. But back down on the track, we did just have our 4th caution of the night with 20 laps remaining in the event. Our race leader is Ethan Stanley now over Braxton Deweese. Jesse Rasmus up to 3rd. Wyatt, great gain for him. Latham Joyner in 4th. Chris Wright in 5th. Jay Kaner there in 6th. Nathaniel Cherry 7th. Hunter Smith 8th. Brandon Ultra 9th. And it is Jordan Owens in the 10th position. Just behind them, Michael Hossack, our pole sitter, in 11th. Cash James in 12th. Ray Bracey 13th. Mark Keeler 14th. David Carpenter 15th. Rory Collins 16th. Mark Rabilas, Casey Hatch, Mark Murphy, and Jess Story rounding out the top 20. But we're going to get back up front here as the iRacing.com pace car pulls onto pit road, and we will hand it back down to Barney the Flagman as the field comes into the Geico restart zone. Green flag, and we are back underway with Ethan Stanley on the loud pedal as we're wrecking.
Huge wreck on the restart. Oh my goodness, so many top 10 cars are involved in that. Oh, and they're still wrecking going into turn 1.
So we see Nathaniel Cherry, Brandon Ultra, Michael Hossack, Cash James involved, David Carpenter, Trey Holmes, I think, got a piece. We're going to have to pull this up on the Rabilas Photography replay machine. We didn't even have a chance really to get going, and we are back under the yellow flag here. Hunter Smith also got a piece in that. We'll just take a brief moment to pull up the incident on the Rabilas Photography replay machine, and it looks like it may start around the Jesse Rasmus machine.
I gotta wonder here if the cold tires on this restart might have been a factor here as we see Jesse Rasmus.
Actually, no.
Oh.
That all started with contact. Latham Joyner into the back of Braxton Deweese. Immediately just turns Deweese down into Rasmus, and it was just a chain reaction. Everyone else just getting involved. Really hard to get a good angle on this one, as it looks like it just picked up. I'm going to actually drop back to Dave Carpenter, because it looked like at the end of it, he may have been kind of in the middle of this entire wreck. As you see, yeah, Rabilas does not lift there. Gets into the back of Carpenter. Everyone just kind of piles in, drives into each other. I want to see how Cash James got involved there for his fans watching at home here. Looks like the 26 of Owens gets into it, into the outside. Cash James, nowhere really to go. Gets hit by Mark Keeler, Mark Murphy, Jay Kaner. I don't think his car's too bad, so he should be able to continue on here. As you see him on the racetrack, checking out the steering. That's exactly what I would be doing at this point, just making sure that this car is actually going to steer when we want to go green again.
Looks like the steering wheel's straight too. You know, before we went on that last restart, I was gonna ask you if we thought 10 wide in the middle of the race, or 10 cars battling for the lead, was crazy.
Well, I don't think 10 wide's gonna work.
No, but 10 cars battling for the lead. You know, if we thought that was crazy, that was gonna get a whole lot crazier. And you got to wonder, Latham got underneath the machine of Braxton Deweese and looks like he lifted the tires off the ground. I wonder if this being his debut in the series, didn't necessarily know how close that nose was to the back end, or potentially even knowing that those noses can get underneath the back of the car.
Yeah, that's the thing with these ARCA cars. Just kind of picture either a doorstop or a wedge of cheese. And that's the noses on these ARCA cars. As you can see there, the 91 of Ethan Stanley, it very much angles down, and it can just get right under the rear of the car ahead of you and send them around, as we saw there with Latham Joyner and Braxton Deweese. But Wyatt, I do just want to restack it here, kind of show everyone where we're at this point. as we are in caution number 5. Looks like we're going to go green with about 10 laps to go in the event. It is Ethan Stanley, our race leader, now with Latham Joyner on the outside of the front row. Chris Wright there in 3rd, Jordan Owens in 4th. Mark Keeler now up into the 5th spot with Casey Hatch in 6th. Mark Murphy there in 7th. Jess Story 8th. Robert Smith in 9th. And Robert Higgins in 10th. So, bunch of new characters up here inside the top 10. After that latest incident took quite a few of them out. I do see a car blinking rather heavily on the back straightaway. I think it was the Cash James machine. Looks like he may have got that sorted out as the pace truck is now down on pit road. Barney the flagman has the green flag back in hand as we do see the field get going green again, and we're wrecking.
We got another accident.
William White there involved. So Mark Rabilas just flipped over. Jay Kaner involved. And I think that's Jesse Rasmus. Yes, it is. Trey Holmes also just got involved in an incident. We just had 2 separate incidents here. Casey Hatch was up in the top 5.
Yeah, something must have happened with them starting to slow back down.
So we're going to break this down into 2 incidents, Wyatt. We'll take a look at the William White incident, and then we'll go to the Casey Hatch incident on the Rabilas Photography replay machine. This is the first incident here. We're looking at the 43 of William White here. See what happened. Looks like Jay Kaner jumps the start a little bit.
Bad.
I do believe it. William White was laying back a little bit, but Jay Kaner just got on the gas way too soon. Gets into the back of the William White machine, sends him around. How in the world did Mark Rabilas just end up on his side? I don't even know how this happened, Wyatt. Let's watch Mark Rabilas here. Oh, he gets help from Jeff Green.
Oh, okay.
If you see right here, Wyatt, Jeff Green in the 38 gets right into the back of Rabilas, sends him around, and then the rear end just kind of ramps off the nose of Jesse Rasmus. I think he's able to continue on, but I want to jump up to that Casey Hatch incident and see what happened. This one up in the top 5 on the Rabilas Photography replay machine. We're watching. Jordan Owens does not get going whatsoever on the restart, so Casey Hatch all over the rear end of that machine. He just...
I can't tell you. I don't know if that was the situation because the caution's out at this point. I don't know if the 26 got off the gas too quick or hit the brake, or if Casey was going a little bit further past what he thought they were going to slow down. I'm not too sure.
That was a very interesting incident there, as we are 7 to go now. Caution number 6. Not too much of a change up in the top 10. Of course, a couple guys did just fall out there. Dustin Dewar and Ray Bracey both joining the top 10 now. So
and how about Mark Murphy?
Mark Murphy up 22 spots, Wyatt. Currently our biggest mover by just 3 positions over Mark Keeler and Robert Smith. Those guys up 19 positions each. As I do believe the lights are off on the... No, they are not. So we're still pacing here. Looks like when we go green, Wyatt, will be about 4 laps to go, as we just got updates on the lap 105 and lap 111 restart incidents. No tallies there. Looks like the 3rd notification from race control not actually popping up on your screens at this point. Let me force that one through for you. But we do have a tally that was just issued for the 14 machine of Casey Hatch. Contact between the 14 of Hatch and the 26 of Owens. A tally was issued to Casey Hatch there. So that one of the first tallies we've seen today, I think, Wyatt.
Yeah, there hasn't been many, and this race was relatively clean all the way through. We get to the end now, and guys are getting a little too greedy on these restarts. But then that introduces new characters into the possibility of a top 5 or a win. Like, you've got Mark Murphy in 5th, you have Jess Story in 6th, Mark Keeler in 4th. And I think they got to be pretty happy with how this has gone so far. Not a lot of other drivers, but, nonetheless, we're going to restart the race here with just a handful to go.
anytime you have an opportunity to pick up a victory in a race, maybe that you weren't the quickest, is always a nice opportunity as the iRacing.com pace truck comes down pit road. Ethan Stanley, Latham Joyner into the restart zone. We are green once again, but we'll keep an eye on the rear of the field just to make sure we don't have another incident, as it looks like we're going to stay green that time.
Latham got a really good start there up top. It's one of the first times we've seen it tonight.
As the top 2, top 3 string out a little bit, Mark Keeler chasing down the
we have another accident.
We have an incident here. Everyone's in it.
Oh, that's a big one. Oh, it's looking like Daytona too.
As we see, I think everybody got a piece of that one. What? Oh, as Brandon Key just decides he's going to come back on the track, hits Dave Carpenter. Okay. As we'll take a look on the Robiles Photography replay machine, see what took everybody out there. As we'll take a look back around, I do believe the Michael Hosick machine here.
Sounds like we have some heated drivers tonight. That's going to be a result of short track racing. There's some
contact. Dustin Dewar just sends it into the rear of the 8 car of Robert Smith. Smith goes around there after contact with Dewar, and then everyone else just piles into it. A couple guys, unfortunately, do get...
Oh, my goodness. I didn't even see Dave Carpenter upside down. I believe that's him.
Yeah, Dave Carpenter gets hit. There he goes. Onto his roof. And back on his wheels. Looks like somebody may have gotten some wheel prints on the roof. I did see Cash James kind of slide through this and then just barely get clipped at the end. We'll ride through here as you see the incident starting right now. Up ahead, he goes to the bottom, able to make it through, and then just barely gets hit by Dustin Dewar here. Able to get through, not a crazy amount of damage on the Cash James machine. He'll restart just outside the top 10, but with the way things are going here, he very well could win this race still, as we will get green flag, or green white checkered attempt number 1 of up to 3 here tonight.
This has been crazy near the end of this thing, man. We ran 40 plus laps here with a lot of action and a lot of cleanliness, and it seems like these drivers have finally succumbed to the short track temper flare, and hopefully we can get a pretty good ending in this one, but it's been rough here the last few restarts.
Lights remain on the iRacing.com pace truck here. So we will continue just to work our way through the field. Currently, your race leader, as he has been for the last 5 restarts, is Ethan Stanley. Latham Joyner to his outside. Chris Wright and Mark Keeler in row number 2. Jess Story alongside Mark Murphy in row 3. Row 4 is Robert Higgins and Ray Bracey, with Michael Hossack and Nathaniel Cherry rounding out the top 10. Just behind them, Hunter Smith and Cash James. That's 11th and 12th. With Jeff Green, Jay Kaner in row number 7. William White, Brandon Ultra, row 8. Mark Robiles, Braxton DeWeese in row 9. Row 10 is Jordan Owens and Robert Smith, and just behind them is Brandon Key, David Carpenter, and Jesse Rasmus, rounding out the cars that do remain on the racetrack here. Lights are off on the iRacing.com pace truck here as the field comes out of turn number 2. As I mentioned, this will be green-white checkered attempt number 1 of up to 3 of those here tonight. Do we stay green here on this attempt? I'm really not sure at this point, as the intensity and I almost want to say recklessness has picked up here in the last couple laps, but iRacing.com pace truck makes the turn onto pit road. We just had tallies issued to both the 32 and the 96, so Dustin Dewar and Mark Robiles, as we are green once again. It is a nice jump by Ethan Stanley, but here comes Chris Wright to the inside of Latham Joyner.
Yeah, and we have a lot of action here through the field, but let's focus on these front group right now, because if we can hit this white, man, next flag ends the race. And
Here he
as the
comes, Ethan Stanley. White flag is indeed in the air here. Barney the flagman looking excited that he can put the yellow flag away at this point. I want to watch Latham Joyner
they're
here
wrecking through 1 and 2.
as we are wrecking in the back. That is okay. We're going to stay under green here. Latham Joyner, he bumps him. He moves him.
He wrecks him.
Is Chris Wright going to do it? He does not. Latham Joyner unofficially scored as the race winner. We'll have to see what race control has to say about that, but that's not a good move there to try to pick up the victory, wrecking the car ahead of you. Latham Joyner unofficially scored as the race winner with Ethan Stanley, Chris Wright, Jess Story, and Mark Keeler, the top 5. We are going to take a quick break here on the Elite Racing Network as we try to figure out who is the race victor. We'll be right back with you in the Pit Lane Cards 120.
Okay.
And we are back here at Richmond Raceway for the Pit Lane Cards 120. We have just heard from Race Control that driver Latham Joyner has been disqualified. So your race winner now is indeed Ethan Stanley, with Chris Wright coming home second and Jess Story third. We're going to send it to our friends at TA Services one final time, and when we come back, we'll hear from the podium finishers. And we are back here at the Richmond Raceway. We're going to take another look here at the incident coming to the checkered flag between Latham Joyner and Ethan Stanley to see what has happened, as we see the number 3 of Joyner just behind the 91 of Ethan Stanley. We're going to watch that 3 car as they come down the back straightaway into turn 3 here. Watch for the 3 to make a late move on that 91, basically just driving through the rear end of that car. As you can see right there, it goes for the hit and kind of stays in it and just drives through Chris Wright, thinking he gets the win. Not close enough, as Latham Joyner did come across in the first position there. So that was quite the incident between those guys. And of course, we did have another incident on the last lap involving pretty much the rest of the field. As we look to get an official ruling, we are hearing, though, that Ethan Stanley is the race winner. Is that correct, Wyatt?
Yeah, everything that's indicating to me through race control right now is showing Ethan Stanley as the winner, Chris Wright in second, and Jess Story in third. I haven't heard any other word, but the last thing I heard was I heard the word official, so I'm going to go with that for now.
we're going to go ahead and bring in Chris Wright here, who is standing, actually Jess Story, now our third place finisher, standing by with Wyatt Knadle.
Jess, this is Wyatt in the booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir. I got you.
Well, man, crazy ending to a otherwise really good race. You're coming home third. How do you feel about the race and how it went down tonight and your third place finish?
It was definitely a wacky race, but first off, I want to apologize to Mark there for turning him with about 20-ish laps to go. I just leaned on him there a little bit too much, and I guess I just turned him. So I wanted to apologize to him for that first. But yeah, overall, like you said, it was a wacky little race. You know, just kind of hard to explain everything going on. Had a lot of luck tonight, I'll tell you that, especially missing quite a few of those wrecks, and found myself in a position to, you know, capitalize on it, and I did. Top 3 finish. Can't be too mad about that.
No, most definitely you cannot. And you know, what did you see on those restarts near the end where we were seeing a couple incidents before we even got going green again?
In all honesty, it's like those restarts, those incidents on the restarts were really kind of surprising. But I can also kind of see it a little bit too. These cars had a tendency to definitely get a lot of wheel spin, especially in second or third gear. So yeah, really, it was kind of like again, it's just one of those luck deals where I just found myself in the right place in the right time. And in all seriousness, I felt like I kind of needed that. Lately, I've been having a lot of bad luck, so it feels good to actually have some luck go my way and get a good finish out of it.
And then third place is something you can always be very proud of. Just before we let you go, is there anyone you want to shout out, any sponsors, family, friends, anything like that you want to make note of tonight?
I mean, just a big shout out to Chad and everybody in the Elite Racing League for giving me this opportunity to race. Thank you guys for the awesome broadcast in the booth. Really, it's a lot of fun to race in these leagues, and I feel very fortunate to be able to race again.
Exactly, and congratulations tonight on your third place finisher, Jess Story.
Thank you, Wyatt.
That was our third place finisher, Jess Story. Now standing by is Chris Wright. He is ready here. Chris, another second place finish for you, buddy.
Yeah, iRacing says 3, but you know it looks. I'm gonna call it a tie. Ethan beat me on a tie. Timing and scoring's off there. I think it's messed up.
Yeah, well, from what we understand, the 3-car of Latham Joyner has been given an end of longest line penalty. So, of course, Ethan Stanley does pick up the victory, and you come home in the second spot from what we've been told. So, what's this, your third second place finish on the season?
Yeah, I think so. We're racking up these P2s, and Ethan's won a few races, but he's had a couple more bad weeks. It looks like it's down to me and him. It's going to be the battle. It's going to be whoever doesn't have a bad race, and I guess I wish that Latham would have done that on the way into the corner, not on the way out, so I could have passed him.
So you mentioned you were side by side with with Ethan Stanley at the line. Let's take a look on the replay machine and just see what happened. Who was closest? I mean, iRacing scoring one way, but maybe our pictures will show that you're not second place.
Yeah, it's really close. I don't know for sure, but it is really close there.
Oh
yeah,
my goodness.
They just edged you out. We'll go back up to the blimp camera here. It was so close, Chris. You almost had that victory, but the racing gods decided that you're just destined to finish second every week. But Chris, is there anything you think you could have done differently tonight to maybe have a better shot at that victory?
I think I did about as good as I could have done. I was not very good on fresh tires. I couldn't run a good qualifying lap. I just couldn't take off. Like the run there that we went long, me and Ethan pitted, and Ethan tore through the field. Like he had that short run pace. I was more race pace, more 20, 30 lap pace. I was able to get all the way up through there, and I was running better than him. If it would have went green to the end and I could have made that pass on second, which I think I was about ready to be able to make that pass, then it might have been a different story. But I just wasn't very good on new tires. I couldn't really attack the way some of those other guys would. So I think second is about as good as I could have hoped for with the cautions at the end. I mean, it was crazy that one restart there where second and third right in front of me wiped out, fourth on my outside wipe. Somehow we got. I have no idea how I got through that and looked in my mirror and seen nobody else. It was incredible. I don't know how I was able to dodge all that.
Well, you did end up dodging that en route to another second place finish. And, obviously we saw a lot of looseness off of turn 2 tonight. Would you say that was the biggest challenge that you guys faced out there, or was there something maybe that we weren't picking up on?
Honestly, the way I was driving the car, I really wasn't too terribly loose. My biggest problem, I felt like, was on equal tires. It was really hard to pass. The bottom did not really want to work. But over the course of that long run, I had a little fresher tires and was able to pass guys. A lot of guys, too, were letting you go because they knew you were on better tires, didn't want to race you. So maybe the track position, I mean, it was pretty important if you were solid. I stayed out the one time when everybody else pitted, and it took them a long time to pass me. So track position, I think, was way more important than anybody thought it was going to be.
Absolutely. As I'm just actually looking at a picture here, it was a lot closer than we even thought between yourself and Ethan Stanley. But just before we get to your final shoutouts, I do want to let you know that, of course, you did take round number 1 against Cash James, your boss over at Pit Pass Network. So I guess for at least one night, you are the boss of Pit Pass Network. And now let's get to your final shoutouts here, Chris.
Well, I want to give a shout out to everybody at Pit Pass Network for putting on the series, putting on the car. You guys up here, everybody back at Lake Norman who are my teammates. They haven't been much help in this series. Of course, they're not eligible to run this series, but everybody at K&P Designs painted the car. Kendall Noah player, great scheme, great looking car. I've been able to run pretty clean and be up front. Chad for the league he runs, and then all the guys down at Do Good that I raced with all those guys tonight. And let me tell you what, I don't know if anybody has more fun in a race than those guys and that group of guys down there with Dustin and Goodman and Jeff Green and all those guys down there. We had a great time.
Well, I'm glad I could stick you with a good group tonight to race with, Chris, and congratulations on another runner-up finish. Hopefully we can get you in victory lane soon.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, got to be Ethan a little bit there. Congrats to him on another win, and it's looking like it's going to be him and I here down the stretch for this championship, and whoever has the lesser of the bad. Right now it's whoever doesn't have a bad race from here on out, I think, is going to be the guy that wins the championship. So just kind of got to shadow him, and I'm sure he's thinking the same thing about me. But like I said, congrats to him on the win.
Absolutely, Chris. Congratulations on the runner-up finish tonight, and best of luck to you tomorrow night in the Daytona 500. Wyatt, that was our runner-up tonight, Chris Wright. And now I understand you're standing by with our race winner, Ethan Stanley.
Ethan Stanley, it's Wyatt in the commentator booth tonight. Do you have a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Man, I don't know what to say. Coming out of turn 4 there between you and the 3, but after it's all said and done, you're still the race winner tonight. How does that feel?
Yeah, I mean, it feels all right, but definitely, in my opinion, a little bit of an unnecessary move there. But yeah, I had a pretty good run up to that point, and I think I would have won the race regardless.
Yeah, we saw you when you would go and take those fresh tires. You were really moving through the field faster than anybody on tires that we could make note of. How did you feel your car was handling on those fresh tires and moving through the field throughout the night?
Yeah, when I had those fresh tires, I really felt like I could run the bottom and get a lot of passes done. Especially with the short runs we were having, like, about 30 laps. I could really get it done and really get back up into the positions that I needed to be in. So, yeah, my strategy was a little bit off, but ended up working out in the end.
Yeah, and you did a phenomenal job all night. You led a lot of laps, and this is your 3rd win of the season. It's still early, man. How are you feeling as we go into a couple off weeks here? How do you feel your momentum is?
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling pretty good. really wish I didn't get wrecked out at Daytona or Michigan because I think I might have been. I think I'd be leading the points, obviously. But hopefully, I could just stay consistent. Really excited about tomorrow, the 500, and yeah, hopefully, this is good momentum for everything in Elite for me this season.
Yeah, you've done a phenomenal job all season, and as you mentioned, the Daytona 500 and the Cup Series is tomorrow. You got a little something for those guys out there? I know I'll be out there. Robert will be out there. What are we going to see from you tomorrow?
I mean, the typical. Try to run easy for the first half or so, or first three quarters, and maybe you can get something. Maybe I can get something done around Daytona. You never know. It's always Daytona. It's unpredictable chaos sometimes, but should be a lot of fun. This is my first 500 with Elite, so should be interesting. I think I'm starting 15th, so not a bad position to be starting in.
No, definitely not. And, before we let you go here, is there anybody you want to shout out, for helping you with this win tonight?
Just shout out to you guys and shout out to everybody that makes the league happen. Not with a team or any sponsors at the moment, but maybe down the line that'll happen. But yeah, just big thanks to you guys, and I know it takes a lot to make this work.
Well, we want to thank you for putting on such a great show. That was our race winner here, Ethan Stanley. Congratulations, Ethan.
Yeah, thank you.
Wyatt, like you mentioned, that was race winner Ethan Stanley taking home his third victory of the season. We'll take a quick look at the unofficial results of tonight's race. Of course, this will need a little bit of adjusting with the penalty assessed to Latham Joyner. So now Ethan Stanley scored as your race winner. Chris Wright second. Jess Story third. Mark Keeler and Robert Higgins round out the top five. Nathaniel Cherry, Braxton DeWeese, Jesse Rasmus, Jordan Owens, and William White up inside the top 10. Dave Carpenter, Mark Rabilis, Ray Bracey, Hunter Smith, Robert Smith, Jay Kaner, Brandon Key up there in the top 20 as well. As Brandon Ultra, Cash James comes home 20th, Jeff Green, Mark Murphy, Michael Hossack, then Latham Joyner in 23rd, Dustin Doer, Trey Holmes, Casey Hatch, Rory Collins, Mike Goodman, and David Dunwoody round out the 29 cars here tonight. Wyatt, final thoughts from Richmond?
Definitely a different pace of race that we have seen. This is our fifth race of the season. All four of the other races, I can say, we saw a lot better racing out of people. I think people got a little aggressive here late, and I think that's something they're going to look on going in these next couple of weeks and try and improve on, and I hope we see better racing in the future.
Yeah, you know what? I could not agree more. That was, from an administrator point of view, it was disappointing to see some of the racing that we saw late in the running here. Of course, I understand intensity picks up and everyone wants to go, but we also kind of still have to try not to run each other over and whatnot. And it's unfortunate, but congratulations to Ethan Stanley on the win. Chris Wright on second, once again for like the 70th time this season. Jess Story, Mark Keeler, all getting top fives with Robert Higgins as well. Some great runs out of guys up in the field. Jesse Rasmus gained 20 spots to finish 8th tonight, so that was a big gain by him and multiple others tonight. Unfortunate for Michael Hossack, looked really strong early, but came home in the 22nd position. But I think that'll about do it for us here from Richmond. Once again, this has been the Pit Lane Cards 120. Be sure to check out Pit Lane Cards on Twitter. This is the Pit Pass Network ARCA series. Check out pitpassnetwork.com. Thank you to our premier partners, TA Services, Blue Egg Marketing, Worldwide Technology Raceway, and a shout out to those behind the scenes, race controller John Cutlip, admin Josh Personetta, as well as yourself, Wyatt. Chad Frankenfield helps us out a bit as well with the league here. Dave Huckleberry helps with some of the graphics that you see on the screen, and all of you watching at home. Once again, this has been the Pit Pass Network ARCA series, and this has been a presentation of the Elite Racing Network. We'll be right back here tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern Time for the Daytona 500 pre-race show with Alexander Ned and Dave Huckleberry. I hope to be able to see you all in Victory Lane tomorrow night, myself or Wyatt, but be sure to tune